But underneath the worry and anger, they were relieved that I was alive. My mom hugged me like I came home from war. Thinking back on the words "he was holding a knife" still give me the chills.
I matched with
I've
this
never
woman
been a
on
big
Bumble
dating
last
app
spring,
guy.
and
Maybe
to this
a little
day,
bit in
I
college,
still don't
but
know who
mostly
I actually
Tinder
met
when I
that
was
night.
messing around.
Her name
After
on the
that,
app was
I had a
Rachel.
4-year
She
relationship.
looked normal in her
I
pictures,
didn't really know
nothing
how to
crazy
go out
or
and
overly
flirt
edited.
anymore.
Just
I
a
didn't
cute
really have
brunette who
game
worked in
anymore.
marketing and
So
liked
I was
hiking.
on Tinder for a bit,
We
just
talked for a few
testing the
days,
waters
and she
as a
seemed down to
freshly
earth.
single guy for a
No
bit,
weird messages
and
or
going out with
vibes.
my single friends a lot.
She didn't push
But when
for
it came
anything, and
time
she actually
to start
wanted to go
seriously
slow.
dating again,
Honestly,
the
it
easy
felt
answer
refreshing
was,
compared to
of
the other
course,
matches.
a serious dating
After
app.
about a week of
Hinge
talking,
was the one
we agreed to
everyone
meet up for
recommended
dinner on a
for
Wednesday
finding
night.
quality women
She
looking
picked a
to
restaurant in a
actually
quiet
date.
part of town,
So I
a
got
little
on
nicer
there,
than
and
the
I got a
places
few
I usually
matches
go,
in the first few
but
days.
nothing too crazy.
One was a really
When I
pretty
got there,
girl
I
named
texted
Jenna.
her that I parked.
She was this short
She didn't answer.
Italian-looking girl with black hair,
I waited at the
tan
entrance,
skin,
checking my
and
phone
she
every
looked
couple
like she
minutes.
worked out. We
10
seemed
minutes
to
went
hit
by,
it off
then 20.
immediately in the chat.
I thought maybe
After
she got
like
stuck
10
in traffic.
messages from both sides,
I messaged
she asked for
again,
my Instagram,
saying I was inside by the
she
hostess
hates
stand.
opening the Hinge app
I started
and would
getting a
rather
little
talk there.
embarrassed. It looked like
So
I was
I
getting
gave it
stood
to
up.
her, and moments later,
The hostess
I got a
asked if
follow
I wanted a
request from her
table,
account.
and I told her I was
Her
waiting for
username
someone.
was Jenna X.
She told me no one under the name Rachel had checked in.
One with 3
Now 30
A's or
minutes
something
passed,
like that.
and I was about to
She
leave.
had like
when a
2,000
guy came in
followers.
and walked
She
straight
followed
up to me.
200 people, and she
He was
had
maybe
2 posts.
mid-40s.
Both posts were her
Scruffy,
taking
kind
a
of heavy,
selfie in the
wearing a
mirror,
black
but
hoodie.
she admittedly
He
looked
asked me
good.
if I was Jake.
The post got a lot of
My name
likes
wasn't
and
on the
comments.
reservation, so
All
it caught me off
thirsty-looking
guard.
guys by the looks of
I
it,
told him
though.
yes,
She had a
and he said he was
story up,
Rachel's
and I
brother.
clicked on it, and it was
He told
her
me
at
Rachel
the gym
wasn't
taking
feeling
a
well,
mirror
but she still
selfie.
wanted to
Also
meet
looked
me.
good.
And she asked him to
She
pick me
DM'd
up and bring me
right
to their
away,
place
and we
since
took
it was
the
really close
conversation
and she
from
didn't
there.
want to cancel.
We continued talking about
The whole
the
thing
same
already
stuff we
sounded
left off
weird,
at.
and I asked why
Gym,
she didn't text me
traveling,
that.
and we found
He said
that
she
we
tried,
related
but
pretty
her
well.
phone died,
And
and she didn't really want to
surprisingly,
bail on
we
our
agreed
date.
to meet for a
His tone
spontaneous
was
drink
calm
at a
and
bar in
polite,
town
and he
that
didn't
night.
seem aggressive
She said
or
she was in the
anything,
same
but
town
this was
as
just
me,
a
which
little
was
off.
convenient. So
I
we
asked where
planned
she
for
lived,
9
and
p.m.
he said just a few
I knew the
blocks
bar
over.
we were going to quite
And that
well,
driving would
and I
be
kind
easier
of knew
because
the
the sidewalks
bartenders.
were icy.
So I decided to go a little
I
early.
stood there debating
The bar
it.
was slightly
Part of me
busy,
felt like
but
a
there
jerk
were
if I
open bar
refused.
stools at the bar,
Like
so
maybe
I
she
sat
really
at one
was sick
seated
and
away from
embarrassed.
people. It was
The other
like
part of me felt like
8:50.
nothing about this
The
was
usual
normal.
bartender came over
I
and
told him
greeted
I was
me,
fine
and she gave
walking.
me an espresso
I asked for the
martini.
address.
I casually
He
took
said it
some
would be
sips
better if
and
he
DM'd
showed
Jenna
me.
that I was there.
That's when
so
something
that
in my
she can take
stomach
her
told me
time.
not to go.
Then I went through her profile.
I told him
a
I'd
little
rather
more.
reschedule.
I went to her
and I started
tagged
walking toward the
pictures.
door.
There were
He
none.
stepped in front of me.
I went through the comments
not
again,
aggressively,
and there
but
truly
just enough
was
to block
not
my
a
path.
single comment from a
He
female.
said Rachel would be
It was all
upset and that she
dudes.
specifically
I
asked
hoped
him
that
to bring
wasn't
me.
a red flag.
I told
that
him
she
I'd
got
text her
around.
later.
Then around
He
this
stared at
time,
me
a
for a few
man sat
seconds,
down on the bar
then
stool
stepped
next to
aside
me and
and
greeted
said,
me,
"Have a
saying,
good
"How you
night,"
doing?"
in a tone
and
that
I
sounded
nodded
more
with
like a
smile.
warning than
I
anything
went back
else.
to looking at my phone,
I left
but
the
the man
restaurant
next
fast
to me
and got into my
continued
car.
to engage in conversation.
I locked the doors
He asked if
immediately.
I come to this bar
As
often
I pulled out of
because
the
he
parking
recognized
space,
me.
I
This
saw
is
him
when I
standing
took a
outside the
closer look
restaurant
at him.
watching me.
He was maybe like
I drove away
38,
thinking that was the end of it,
just
and
slightly
maybe it was
gray,
just some weird
kind of overweight,
misunderstanding.
and a patchy beard
Later that
he
night,
definitely
around
should
11
have shaved.
p.m., my
I
phone
didn't
buzzed.
recognize him at all, though. I
It
told
was a
him,
message
yeah,
on Bumble
I come
from
here
Rachel's
once in a
profile.
while. He then
It
reached
said,
out his
"Why
hand
didn't
for
you
a
come?"
handshake and introduced
I
himself
replied that her
as
brother
Rob.
came to the restaurant
Oh,
and told me she
brother,
was sick.
I thought to myself.
She answered
I wasn't in the
instantly,
mood for this,
saying she
but I
didn't
shook
have
his
a
hand
brother.
and introduced
All
myself
I could
as well.
think was,
Around
what?
now, the bartender came over
I told her
and said,
exactly what happened.
Finally decided
and she
to
stopped
get a drink, I
responding.
see, to this
I figured
guy.
maybe she
He
was
gave
freaked
a
out
weird,
too.
subtle laugh.
I tried
but
to sleep
that kind
after
of made
that,
me think
but
for a
around
bit.
1 a.m.,
Was he
I got a
already
notification
here
that
and
someone
he
was
just
trying to
came
log
up to
into
the
my
bar to
email,
talk to
then
me?
my bank app,
I
and then my
DM'd Jenna
Instagram,
again,
all
saying,
within
"Help
minutes of
me,
each
this
other.
weird guy I think
I
is
changed
hitting
my
on me,"
passwords and
as a
turned on
joke,
every security
but I
feature I
realized
could.
my previous
I
DM
didn't
to
quite
her
connect
was
it to
left
Rachel's
unseen.
situation at first.
I asked her if she was on her way.
The next morning,
Then I went back
checked
to
Bumble
looking
to
at
see
her
if she had
profile,
replied,
and I decided
but her
to check her
profile was
following
gone.
list. And I
Completely
realized
deleted.
she didn't follow a
Around
single
noon,
female.
I got a text from an
only
unknown
dudes.
number.
What
It
kind
said,
of girl
"You
doesn't
should have come
follow
with
any
me."
of her girlfriends?
I showed the
This
text
was
to my
weird.
roommate, and he
The
told me to
way
block the
pushed
number
for
and report it.
explicit photos,
I
the
blocked
way
it,
he'd get
but the messages
salty
didn't
and
stop.
aggressive when I refused.
New numbers kept
the way
texting
he'd
me,
avoid me
different
now.
area codes.
Knowing what he
Each
really
message
looked
was
like,
something
what
short
he
and
really
vague,
was,
like, "We
made
saw
all
you.
his past
Next time, don't
behavior
waste my
10
time."
times more
And
uncomfortable.
you made it harder for
When
yourself.
I told him I wanted to break up,
At one
he
point,
snapped.
a message
He
came
said,
through that used my
"So you're
full
just
name,
like the other girls.
not the
You
name I
only
used
liked
on
me
Bumble,
because of the
my
pictures
real
of a guy
legal
I
name.
used? You never cared
I
about
didn't
me.
answer
You're
any of
no
them.
different."
That night,
was
while I was
stunned.
home alone,
He lied
someone
to me,
knocked on my apartment
deceived
door.
me, manipulated me. Yet
I was on the
somehow
couch,
became
and I
the
could not
villain.
move.
He ranted
After a
and
minute
I
of
cried.
silence,
He
there was
blamed
another
me,
knock.
then he apologized.
Harder this time.
And then he begged. begged.
I thought
He
about calling the
guilt-tripped,
police,
like a full
but it had only
cycle
been
of
2
emotional
knocks, and I didn't want to sound
manipulation
paranoid.
condensed into 30 minutes.
I looked through the peephole.
And then came the most
No one was there.
unhinged part of it all.
The hallway was
he
empty.
Said, "Please, just
I
let me
stepped
stay
back
with
and
your
waited.
family on Christmas.
After a few
I already
seconds,
told
I
my
heard heavy
parents I won't
footsteps
be
walking
home.
down the
I
stairs.
have nowhere else to go."
The next day, I
I
called the
stared at my
restaurant and
phone
asked
in
if anyone
disbelief.
matching that guy's
Absolutely
description had a
not.
reservation
I
or
muted
had checked in around the time I was
every
there.
message, blocked the
They
numbers,
said no.
refused to let his
I asked if
chaos
anyone had
bleed
been
into my
standing around
holiday.
outside looking
And
in,
I had a
maybe
peaceful
waiting for
Christmas
someone.
with my family.
The
kind of
hostess told me
Christmas
one of their
I
servers
needed.
actually mentioned a
But
man
if
in a
things
hoodie
had
pacing
truly
back and
ended
forth
there, I
outside
wouldn't
for
be
almost an
writing
hour
this
before I
because Michael
arrived.
didn't stay gone.
She said they thought he was
didn't
waiting for
accept the
someone,
breakup.
but he never went
didn't
inside until he
disappear
walked
quietly.
directly up to me.
And the worst part was
I didn't tell
still
her the
coming.
rest.
For
I
almost
felt sick
a
thinking
year,
how long
life
he had been
felt
watching the
normal
entrance.
again. I focused on
I
myself,
reached out to the
my
local
hobbies,
police
and my
and gave them the number that
I
had
became
texted me
active
first.
on Instagram again.
They weren't able to
something I
trace
had
it to
stopped
anyone,
doing while
and since
dealing
no
with the
crime had
emotional
technically been
fallout of
committed,
Michael's
according to
lies.
them, they
I
couldn't do
started
much.
posting selfies, little
I deleted
life updates,
Bumble.
even
I
some
changed my
cosplay
phone
photos
number,
I was
and I
proud
changed
of.
all my
It felt
passwords.
good to exist online
Things were
without
quiet for
feeling
about a
watched.
week.
But the
Then,
one thing
one
I
night
forgot,
when I was taking the trash
Michael
out
and I
behind my
still
apartment
followed
building,
each other.
I found
It
a
didn't
folded
even
piece
cross
of
my
paper
mind
shoved
until it
under the
was too
handle of the
late.
dumpster.
One night
It
after
had my
posting
name
a
on
few
it.
stories, nothing
I opened
dramatic, just a selfie
Inside
and
was a
behind
printed
the scenes
photo
a
of
new
me from the night
cosplay.
of the
I
supposed
got a
date.
notification.
Me
One
standing
message
inside the
request.
restaurant lobby,
Michael.
looking at my phone.
He replied to my story.
The angle was
"Hey,
from
how
outside
have
the
you been?"
window.
Just
Someone had
reading
watched
his
me the
name
entire
made
time.
something cold crawl
On the
up my
back of the
spine.
photo, it said,
I didn't open the
"You."
message. I didn't even breathe
couldn't
for
sleep
a
for
second.
days.
I just locked
I
my
started
phone
staying
and
at
tossed
friends'
it aside,
houses.
like the words would
Every
burn
little
me
sound
if I
made my
looked at
heart
them
jump.
for too long.
A few
I
days
tried
later,
to ignore
I checked
it,
the
but the
dumpster again and
notifications
found
kept
nothing.
coming. Every few
I
hours,
became really
another
hyper-aware of
message.
my surroundings.
Eventually, I got
Eventually,
so
the
sick
messages
of it,
and
I
everything
opened our
stopped.
chat. And
Or
the
maybe
moment
they
I
just
did,
stopped showing
my
themselves to
entire
me.
body went cold.
Maybe they were still
because
watching.
sitting there, sent just
The only
minutes
thing I know
earlier,
is that the
was a
person I met that
photo of
night
the
was
front
not
of our
Rachel's
house.
brother,
My
because
parents
Rachel
weren't
didn't
home.
exist.
I felt like the
Someone
air
made the
was
entire
being sucked
profile
out of
from
my
scratch.
lungs. My
Someone
fingers
created
moved on
her
instinct.
just to lure
I
somebody
locked all the
somewhere.
doors in the house,
Someone was
ran
expecting me to
upstairs,
leave that
shut my
restaurant
bedroom
with
door,
them.
and locked that
And the
too.
worst part is
Then
that I still
called
don't
the
know who
police.
he was.
While I was on the phone
I have
trying to
not been on a
speak
dating
without my
app
voice
since.
cracking, I heard
feel like I
knocking,
was supposed to disappear that
pounding.
night.
He was
And
outside
the only reason I
yelling
didn't
my name.
was because
He
I
yelled,
trusted my gut
"Please
at the
just
last
open the
second.
door. We can talk." His voice was desperate and unhinged, a tone I had never heard before. I held my phone so tightly I thought it might crack.
After
I crouched
turning
beside
30
my
years
bed,
old back in
trying not to
January,
make a
I
sound,
started getting
while the
sick of being
dispatcher kept me
single.
calm, step
I
by
hadn't
step.
been in a real
"We're on the
relationship
way.
in several
Don't come
years,
out.
and I wanted to
Stay
get
on
back
the
out
line."
there.
It
I
felt
had
like
always
hours,
resisted
even
online
though
dating,
it was
but I
probably
eventually
just
decided
minutes.
to bite the bullet and
Thankfully, we
download the
lived
dating
close
app
to a police
Hinge.
station. I heard
After a few
footsteps
days of using
outside
the
and
app,
officers
I did
shouting,
end up with several
and then
matches,
finally,
but none of them ever
silence.
amounted to
They
anything.
arrested him. When
One
they
Monday
came to the
night,
door
I
to
was
check
chilling
on
at
me,
home
I
watching
finally
hockey
unlocked it,
when I got a
still
phone
shaking.
notification from
The
Hinge.
officer who talked to me had
saying
a
that I had
serious
matched
look
with
on
a girl
his
named
face.
Rebecca.
The officer told
Her
me he
profile
was
looked
holding
legit.
a knife.
She had a photo of
I had
herself
to
at her
grip the door
job, a
frame to
short
stay
video of
upright.
her and her
He
friends at a
came to
bar
my
shooting
house
darts,
with a
picture
knife.
of her at an outdoor
I didn't know if
concert,
he meant
and a
to
regular
threaten
selfie
me,
of just
hurt
her
me,
face.
or hurt himself.
I thought she was very
but
attractive,
none of the
so I
possibilities
messaged
made me feel
her.
any better.
Before
They
long, we were
all
having a nice
terrifying.
conversation about our respective
Because of
jobs
that,
and
I
hobbies.
had no choice but to
She
tell
seemed
my
cool and
parents
normal,
everything.
so I asked her if she
Every
wanted to
lie
meet
he
at a
told
local
and
arcade bar
every
that
red
Friday.
flag I ignored.
She took a
They
while to
scolded
respond,
me, of course,
something
for
like
trusting
4
someone
hours.
online and
But
for
about
hiding
1
it from
a.m.,
them.
she finally
The
got back
biggest
to me and
one,
agreed to the
The
date.
way his tone changed
After our
whenever
plans
the
were
topic
set,
got
I didn't
even
hear from her at
remotely
all for
intimate.
4
Out of
days,
nowhere, this man
until
would ask
literally
me for
30 minutes
explicit
before our
selfies
date.
every
She sent a
single
text
time.
that just
I shut
said,
it down
"On my
firmly
way," at
every
our
time.
agreed upon
I wasn't
time.
comfortable with that.
I pulled up to the
especially
bar and
online.
was immediately
I told him
surprised
that
by how
straight,
slow the place
but
looked.
it was like talking
This
to
was a
dog
Friday
in
at
heat.
8 p.m.,
No,
and this
scratch
bar
that.
only had
A
2
dog
cars
in
in their
heat
parking
at
lot.
least has the
I pulled
excuse
into
of
a
being
spot
an
right
animal.
by the front sign of the bar.
He was worse.
Mere
because he
seconds
knew
after I put my car in
exactly what he was
park,
doing. We'd
I got a
argue
text
about
from
it a
Rebecca
lot.
saying that
He'd
she was having
push,
car
I'd
trouble and
refuse,
that she was
and
parking
he'd
on the
sulk.
other side of the bar.
Sometimes he'd apologize.
This immediately struck
Sometimes
me as
he'd
super
respect my
suspicious,
boundaries,
since
only
the
to
other
ask
side of the bar
again
was
the
nothing but a
next
few
day,
dumpsters
we
and a
didn't
fence
just
that
fight about
separated the
same
bar from the
thing.
woods.
The cycle became
It didn't make any
exhausting.
sense how
And
she would
yet,
even end up back
despite
there.
all of that,
I tried
still
calling
wanted
her,
to meet
but
him
after
in
one
person
ring, it went to
see if this
voicemail,
connection connection was real, or
I hung up
if I was
and
just
immediately received
romanticizing
another
the
text
voice
from
on
her
the
that
other end of
said,
the screen.
"Please just
But
come around
every
back
time,
and help
and
with
I
my
mean
car."
every time I suggested
Alarms were
meeting
going
up,
off in my head,
he had an excuse.
but I wasn't
He had
immediately sure
errands,
what
he
to
was
do.
busy, he didn't feel well,
I sent
his
her a
schedule
text
was
that just
full, he
said,
wasn't in the
"This
city,
doesn't
he
feel
had a
right, I'm
family
leaving."
thing, he had an
I
emergency,
know that sounds
or
a little
the
dumb in
classic,
retrospect,
soon.
but I was
It
seriously
was always
unsure of how to handle the
soon, but soon
situation.
never came, and somewhere
After
between
sending
the
her the
late night
text,
calls,
I
the
put my car in
excuses,
reverse
the
and started
constant
leaving the
sexual
parking lot.
pressure, and the growing
As soon
pit
as I
in
was
my
about to
stomach,
turn off the
something
lot,
in me
two
began
men
to
in
shift.
ski masks
Something
came running
wasn't
out from
right
behind
with
the bar
Michael.
straight
And
towards
I
my
felt
car.
it long before I
They didn't
admitted
appear to
it.
be
My
holding any
friends
kind
had
of
been warning
weapon,
me
but I
for
was definitely
weeks.
not going to
Every
wait
time
around any
Michael
longer
dodged
to
a
find
meetup,
out.
every time he gave
I
some
sped off
vague
all the way back
excuse
to my
about his
apartment.
broken camera, every
Once
time
I got
he
back
pushed for
home,
explicit
I noticed that
photos,
there was a
but
big dent on the
refused to
top of
show
my
so
car's
much as
trunk,
half his
as
face.
if one of the guys
My
had thrown a
friends would
large rock
exchange
at my
looks.
car as
Does
I was
he
speeding
not show
off.
himself on video
I didn't
call
even
at
notice a
all?
heavy
One of
object
them
hitting my
asked one
car.
night
That's
while
how
we were
scared I
reviewing
was in
in
the
the living room.
moment.
Not even a
I
quick
called the
flash
police
of
and
his
told them the whole
face. Another
story.
added, I
But at
shrugged.
the end of the day,
His
there
phone
wasn't
got
much they could
stolen.
really
I
do.
reminded them for maybe the 10th
They said they would
time
keep
that
me
month.
posted if
And
any
his
leads came
laptop
up,
camera
whatever
was
that
broken. They
means.
stared at
But
me
I haven't
like
heard
I
back
had just
from them.
announced I believed in
Weirdly,
unicorns.
this didn't totally
Marie,
scare me
come
off
on,
dating
one of them
apps,
said
since I
gently.
figured the
If
odds
he
of that
really
happening
wanted to
again are
see
very
you, he
slim.
would find a way.
Still,
Even a
I'm much more
10-year-old
careful about
laptop
meeting
has a
people off of
camera.
them, and I make sure to
Something's
call
off.
or
I knew
FaceTime
they
women
were right.
before meeting them.
Deep down, I felt it too. But I kept defending him. I kept telling myself he wouldn't call me every day if he wasn't serious. I kept insisting he was just going through something personal.
I still remember that stretch
I
of
kept believing the
2024 like
version
it
of
was
the person
yesterday.
he pretended to be.
Humid
Then
city
came
nights,
December,
cramped
weeks
condo
before
living,
Christmas.
and the
With
constant
that
hum of
stupid
anxiety
mix of
sitting in
hope
my
and
chest
denial
because the board
swirling in
exam
my
was only a
chest,
few months
I
away.
finally told him,
I was
"Come
staying
over,
in a small
meet my
condominium
family,
in the city
spend
with my
Christmas
3
with us."
friends.
He sounded
All of us
thrilled.
were
He
buried
said
in
yes
review materials,
instantly, no
practice
hesitation
exams, and
or
the occasional
excuses.
emotional
For the
breakdown
first
disguised as a
time,
coffee
I let
break.
myself believe
And like
that
every other
maybe
stressed out
everything would pay
20-something
off in
stuck
the
between
end.
obligation
I
and
pictured a
burnout,
sweet
I
Christmas
thought it would be a
morning
great idea to
introduction,
distract
a
myself
cheesy
with
meet
someone
my
new.
boyfriend moment, a
That's
fresh
when I met
start,
him.
maybe even
Let's call
something
him Michael.
real. But the day
I
before
don't
our
know if it was
meetup,
the boredom, the
everything
loneliness,
shattered.
or just the
I
fact that I
remember
was
sitting
tired
on
of
the
thinking
condo
about
couch
formulas,
reviewing
but I found him
flashcards when he
attractive
called
right
me.
away.
His breathing
He
was
was charming in
shaky
the
and
beginning.
uneven. At
Calm,
first, I thought
funny,
he was just
the type
stressed.
of guy who
Then I
replied fast,
realized
but
he
not
was
too
crying.
fast.
"Can
It
we
was as if he
talk?"
mastered the
whispered.
perfect balance of
Something
interest
in me
and
went
chill.
cold. It took a
We
while
started
for him
talking
to choke
every
it out,
day,
but when he
and then
finally
every
did,
night.
the words hit
And
me like
before
a
I could
punch
fully
straight
process
to
what
the
I was
stomach.
doing,
"I'm the catfish."
we were
My
dating,
heart dropped.
or
He
at least something that
confessed
felt like
everything.
dating.
The photos?
Michael was,
Fake.
at first,
Taken from an
everything a sane
Indonesian
person would
influencer
want.
he'd been pretending to
Respectful,
be.
attentive,
His name?
a good
Fake.
conversationalist.
His work? Fake. His
We
nationality?
would be on calls
he
for
lied
hours
about
while I lay on my thin
everything.
condo mattress,
My head was spinning
staring at the
so
ceiling
hard,
and
I
listening
thought
to
I
his
would
voice
throw
fill
up.
the room.
I felt my skin
The only
crawl
weird
and my
thing was
face
that he never
drain of
showed his
color.
face during
It
our
was
calls.
like he peeled off a
He claimed
mask
his phone
I
had
didn't
been
even know he
stolen,
was
and the
wearing.
laptop he was
And then,
using
because
didn't have a
apparently
functioning
the universe
camera.
wanted the moment to be even
I
worse,
didn't question it
he
at
sent me a
first,
picture of his
but
real
slowly,
face. He claimed
little
he
red
didn't
flags
lie
began
about being
popping up
24,
like notifications
but honestly,
I kept swiping
I've seen
away.
uncles in their late
The biggest
30s
one?
who looked younger than
The way
him.
his
In
tone
that
changed
moment,
whenever the
my
topic
brain
got even
connected
remotely
all
intimate.
the dots. She
Out
took
of
a while to
nowhere,
respond.
this man would ask me for
Something like
explicit
4
selfies
hours.
every
At about
single
1
time.
a.m., she finally
I
got
shut
back
it down
to me
firmly
and agreed
every
to the
time.
date.
I
After
wasn't
our plans
comfortable
were
with
set,
that,
I didn't
especially
hear from her
online.
at all for
I told him
4
that
days,
straight,
until literally
it was like talking
30
to a dog
minutes
in
before our
heat.
date. She sent a
No,
text that
scratch
just
that.
said, "On my
A dog
way,"
in heat at least has the excuse of being an
I
animal.
pulled up to the bar
This guy,
and was
he was
immediately
worse,
surprised
because he
by
knew
how
exactly what
slow
he
the
was
place
doing.
looked. This was a
We'd argue
Friday
about
at
it
8
a lot.
p.m., and this
He'd
bar
push,
only
I'd
had
refuse,
2 cars
he'd
in the
sulk.
parking lot.
Sometimes
I
he'd
pulled into a
apologize,
spot right by
sometimes
the
he'd
front
respect
side
my
of the bar.
boundaries,
Mere
only to ask
seconds
again
after
the
I put
next
my
day
car in
like we
park,
didn't just fight
I
about
got
the
a
same
text from
thing.
Rebecca saying that she
The
was
cycle
having
became
car trouble
exhausting, everything.
and that she was
And
parking
yet,
on the other side
despite
of
all
the
of
bar.
that, I
This
still wanted to meet
immediately
him in
struck me as
person
super
to see if this
suspicious,
connection
since
was
the
real
other side of the
or if
bar
I was
was
just
nothing but a few
romanticizing a voice on the other end
dumpsters
of a
and
screen.
fence that separated the
But
bar
every
from the
time,
woods.
and I mean
It
every
didn't make
time
any
I
sense
suggested
how she
meeting
would
up,
even
he
end
had
up
an
back there.
excuse.
I tried
He had
calling her,
errands,
but
he
after
was
one
busy,
ring,
he
it
didn't
went to
feel
voicemail.
well, his schedule
I
was
hung up
full,
and
he wasn't in
immediately
the
received
city,
another
he had
text
a
from her
family
that said,
thing, he had an
"Please
emergency,
just come around
or
back
the
and help
classic
with my car."
soon. It was
Alarms
always
were going off in
soon,
my head,
but soon
I
never
wasn't
came.
immediately
And
sure
somewhere
what to
between
do.
the late night
I sent her a
calls,
text
the
that just said,
excuses,
"This
the
doesn't
constant
feel
sexual
right. I'm
pressure,
leaving."
and the
I
growing pit
know
in my
that sounds a
stomach,
little dumb
something in me began to shift.
but I was seriously
Something
unsure
wasn't
of how
right
to
with
handle the
Michael,
situation.
and I felt it
After
long
sending her
before
the
I
text,
admitted it.
I put my car
My
in
friends had
reverse
been
and
warning me
started
for
leaving the
weeks.
parking lot.
Every time Michael
As soon
dodged a
as I was
meetup,
about to
every
turn
time he
off
gave
the
some
lot,
vague excuse
two
about his
men
broken
in ski
camera,
masks
every
came
time he pushed
running
for
out from
explicit
behind the
photos
bar,
but refused to
straight
show
towards
so
my
much as
car.
half his
They
face.
didn't appear appeared to be
My friends would
holding any kind
exchange
of
looks.
weapon, but I was
Does he
definitely
not show himself on
going
video
to wait
call
around
at all?
any longer
One
to
of them
find
asked
out.
one night
I
while we were
sped off
reviewing in the
all
living
the way
room.
back to my apartment.
Not even a
Once
quick
I got
flash
back
of his
home,
face,
I noticed that
another
there was
added.
a big dent
I
on the
shrugged.
top of my car's trunk.
His phone got
as
stolen.
if one of the
I
guys
reminded
had
them for
thrown
maybe
a
the
large
10th
rock
time
at my
that
car
month.
as I was speeding
And his
off.
laptop camera is
I didn't
broken.
even notice a
They
heavy
stared at
object
me like
hitting
I had
my
just
car.
announced I
That's
believed
how
in
scared I
unicorns.
was in the moment.
Marie,
I called
come
the
on,
police and
one of
told
them
them
said
the whole
gently.
story.
If he
But at
really
the end
wanted
of
to
the
see
day,
you,
there
he would find a
wasn't much
way.
they could really
Even
do.
a 10-year-old
They said
laptop
they would
has a
keep me
camera.
posted
Something's
if any
off.
leads came up, whatever that means.
I knew they were right.
But I haven't
Deep
heard
down,
back from
I
them.
felt it too.
Weirdly, this
But I kept
didn't
defending
totally
him.
scare me off
I
dating
kept telling
apps,
myself
since
he
I
wouldn't call
figured
me
the
every
odds
day
of
if
that
he wasn't
happening
serious.
again are very slim.
I kept insisting
Still,
he was just
I'm
going
much
through
more
something
careful
personal.
about meeting people
I
off
kept
of them,
believing the
and I
version
make
of the
sure to
person he
call or
pretended to be.
FaceTime women before meeting
Then
them.
came
I still
December,
remember that
weeks
stretch
before
of
Christmas,
2024
with that
like it
stupid
was
mix of
yesterday.
hope and denial
Humid
swirling
city
in my
nights,
chest.
cramped condo
I finally
living,
told him,
and the
"Come
constant
over,
hum
meet my
of
family,
anxiety
spend
sitting in
Christmas
my
with
chest
us."
because the board
He
exam
sounded
was
thrilled.
only a few months
He said
away.
yes instantly.
I was staying
No
in a
hesitation
small
or
condominium
excuses.
in the city with my 3 friends.
For the first time,
All
I
of
let
us were
myself
buried
believe
in
that maybe
review
everything would pay
materials,
off in the
practice
end.
exams, and the
I pictured a
occasional
sweet Christmas
emotional
morning
breakdown
introduction,
disguised as
a
coffee
cheesy
break.
meet my boyfriend
And
moment,
like every other
a fresh
stressed
start,
out 20-some
maybe
stuck
even
between
something real.
obligation and burnout,
But the day before
I
our
thought it
meetup,
would be a
everything
great idea
shattered.
to distract myself with
I
someone new.
remember sitting on the
That's
condo
when I met
couch
him.
reviewing
Let's call
flashcards
him
when he
Michael.
called me.
I don't know
His
if it
breathing
was
was
the
shaky
boredom,
and
the
uneven.
loneliness, or
At
just
first,
the
I
fact
thought
that
he
I
was
was
just
tired of
stressed.
thinking about formulas.
Then I realized
but I
he was
found him
crying.
attractive right away.
Can we talk?
He was charming
He
in the
whispered.
beginning. Calm,
Something
funny,
in me went cold.
the type of guy who replied
It took a
fast,
while for
but
him to
not
choke
too
it out.
fast.
But
It
when
was
he
as if
finally did,
mastered the
the words
perfect
hit me like a
balance of
punch
interest
straight to
and
the
chill.
stomach.
We started
On the
talking every
Catfish,
day and then every
my
night.
heart dropped.
And before I could
He
fully
confessed
process
everything.
what I was doing,
The photos,
we were dating,
fake,
or at
taken
least
from an
something
Indonesian
that felt
influencer
like
he'd been
dating.
pretending to be.
Michael was,
His
at
name,
first,
fake.
everything a
His
sane
work,
person would
fake.
want.
His
Respectful,
nationality, he
attentive,
lied about
a
everything.
good conversationalist.
My head
We
was
would be
spinning
on
so
calls for
hard, I thought I
hours
would
while
throw
I lay
up.
on my thin
I
condo
felt my skin
mattress,
crawl,
staring
my
at the
face
ceiling
drain of
and
color.
listening to his voice fill
It
the
was
room.
like he peeled off a mask
The
I
only
didn't even
weird
know he
thing
was
that
wearing.
he never showed his
And then,
face during
because
our calls.
apparently the universe
He
wanted the
claimed his
moment to be
phone had
even
been
worse,
stolen,
he
and the
sent me a
laptop he
picture of
was
his
using
real
didn't have a
face.
functioning
He
camera.
claimed he didn't lie
I
about
didn't
being
question
24.
it at first,
But honestly,
but slowly,
I've seen
little red
uncles in their
flags
late
began
30s who
popping
looked
up,
younger
like
than him.
notifications I kept
In that
swiping
moment,
away.
my
I
brain
blocked
connected
it,
all the
but
dots.
the messages didn't
The way
stop.
he pushed for explicit
New numbers
photos,
kept
the
texting
way
me,
he'd get sulky and
different area
aggressive when I
codes.
refused,
Each
the
message
way
was
he'd
something
avoid meeting
short
up,
and vague, like,
knowing what he
"We
really
saw
looked
you.
like, what
Next
he
time,
really
don't waste
was,
my time,"
made all his
and
past
"You
behavior
made it
10
harder
times
for
more
yourself."
uncomfortable.
At one point,
When I told him I
a
wanted to
message
break
came
up,
through that
he
used
snapped.
my full name,
He said,
not the name
"So
I
you're
used
just
on
like
Bumble,
the other girls.
my real
You only liked
legal
me because
name.
of the pictures of the guy
I
I
didn't
used.
answer any
You
of
never
them.
cared about me.
That night,
You're
while
no
I was home
different."
alone, someone knocked on
I
my
was
apartment
stunned.
door.
He
I
lied
was
to
on the
me,
couch,
deceived
and I
me,
could not
manipulated
move.
me, yet
After
somehow
a minute of
I became the
silence, there was
villain.
another knock.
He
Harder
ranted
this
and I
time.
cried.
I thought
He
about
blamed
calling the
me,
police,
then he
but it had only
apologized,
been
and then
2
he
knocks,
begged.
and I didn't want to sound
He
paranoid.
guilt-tripped,
I
like a
looked
full
through the
cycle of
peephole.
emotional
No one was
manipulation
there.
condensed into
The
30
hallway was
minutes.
empty. I stepped
Then
back
came the
and
most
waited.
unhinged part of it
After
all.
a few seconds,
He
I
said,
heard heavy
"Please
footsteps
just let me stay
walking
with your
down the
family on
stairs.
Christmas.
The next
I already
day,
told my
I
parents
called
I
a
won't be
restaurant
home. I
and
have
asked
nowhere
if
else to
anyone
go."
matching that guy's description
I stared at
had a
my phone in
reservation or
disbelief.
had checked in around the time
Absolutely
I was there.
not.
They said no.
I muted him.
I asked if
I
anyone
ignored
had
every
been standing
message,
around
blocked the
outside
numbers,
looking in,
refused to
maybe
let his
waiting for
chaos
someone.
bleed into my
The
holiday.
hostess told me one
And
of
I had
their
a peaceful
servers
Christmas
actually
with my
mentioned a
family,
man in a
the
hoodie,
kind of Christmas I
pacing
needed.
back and forth
But if things had
outside
truly ended
for almost
there,
an
I
hour
wouldn't be
before
writing
I
this.
arrived. She
Because
said they thought he
Michael
was
didn't
waiting
stay
for someone,
gone.
but he never
He didn't
went
accept
inside
the breakup.
until he
He
walked
didn't
directly
disappear
up to me.
quietly.
I I didn't
and the
tell
worst
her the
part was
rest.
still coming.
I felt sick thinking how
For almost
long
a
he had been
year,
watching
life
the
felt
entrance.
normal again.
I reached out to
I
the local
focused on
police
myself,
and
my
gave them
hobbies,
the
and my
number that had
friends.
texted me first.
I became active
They
on
weren't able
Instagram
to
again,
trace it to
something
anyone,
I had stopped
and
doing
since no
while
crime
dealing with
had
the emotional
technically been
fallout
committed,
of Michael's
according to
lies.
them, they couldn't
I
do
started
much.
posting
I
selfies,
deleted
little life
Bumble. I
updates,
changed
even
my
some
phone number,
cosplay
and I
photos I
changed
was
all
proud
my
of.
passwords.
It felt
Things were
good to
quiet
exist
for about a
online
week.
without feeling
Then one
watched.
night, when I was
But the
taking the
one thing I
trash out
forgot,
behind my apartment building,
Michael and I still
I found
followed
a
each
folded
other.
piece of paper
It
shoved
didn't
into
even
the
cross my
handle of the
mind
dumpster.
until it was too
It
late.
had my name on it.
One night,
I
after
opened
posting
it.
a few stories,
Inside
nothing
was a
dramatic,
printed photo
just a
of me from
selfie
the
and a
night of
behind
the
the scenes of a
supposed
new
date.
cosplay,
Me
I
standing
got a
inside the
notification.
restaurant lobby,
One message
looking at
request,
my phone.
Michael.
The angle was from outside
He replied
the
to my
window.
story.
Someone
Hey,
had
how have you
watched
been?
me the entire
Just
time.
reading his name
On the
made
back of
something
the photo,
cold
it
crawl
said,
up my spine.
"You." I
I
couldn't
didn't
sleep
open the
for
message.
days.
I didn't
I
even
started
breathe
staying
for a
at friends'
second.
houses.
I just
Every little
locked my
sound
phone
made
and
my
tossed
heart
it
jump.
aside,
A
like
few
the
days
words
later,
would burn me if
I
I
checked
looked
the
at them for
dumpster
too
again
long.
and found nothing.
I tried to
I
ignore
became
it,
really
but the notifications
hyper-aware of
kept
my
coming.
surroundings.
Every few
Eventually,
hours,
the messages and
another
everything stopped.
message.
Or maybe
Eventually,
they just
I got
stopped
so sick
showing
of it.
themselves to me.
I opened our chat,
Maybe they
and
were
the moment
still
I did,
watching.
my
The
entire
only
body
thing I
went
know
cold.
is that the person I met
Because
that
sitting
night
there,
was not
sent just
Rachel's
minutes
brother,
earlier,
because
was
Rachel
a photo
didn't
of the front of our
exist.
house.
Someone made the entire
parents weren't
profile
home.
from scratch.
I felt like the air was
Someone
being sucked
created
out of
her
my
just to
lungs.
lure somebody somewhere.
My fingers moved on
Someone was
instinct.
expecting
I
me
locked
to
all the
leave
doors
that
in the
restaurant
house,
with
ran
them.
upstairs,
And the
shut
worst
my
part
bedroom
is that I
door, and
still
locked
don't
that
know
too.
who he
Then I
was.
called the police.
I have not been on a dating
While I
app
was on the
since.
phone trying to
I
speak
feel
without
like I
my
was
voice
supposed to
cracking, I
disappear
heard
that
knocking.
night. And the only reason I didn't was because
Pounding.
I trusted my gut at
He
the
was
last
outside
second.
and yelling my
After
name.
turning 30 years old
He yelled,
back in
"Please,
January,
just open the door.
I started
We
getting
can talk."
sick of being single.
His voice was
I hadn't
desperate
been
and
in a real
unhinged, a
relationship
tone I
in
had
several
never heard
years,
before.
and I wanted to get back
I
out
held
there.
my phone so
I had
tightly I
always
thought it might
resisted
crack.
online dating, but I
I crouched
eventually
beside my
decided to bite the
bed,
bullet
trying not
and
to make a
download the
sound
dating
while the
app
dispatcher
Hinge.
kept me calm,
After
step
a
by
few
step.
days of using the app,
"We're on the
I
way.
did end
Don't
up with
come out.
several
Stay on
matches,
the line."
but none of them ever
It
amounted
felt like
to anything.
hours, even though it was
One
probably
Monday
just
night,
minutes.
I was chilling at home
Thankfully,
watching hockey
we lived close
when
to
I
a
got
police
a phone
station.
notification from Hinge
I heard
saying
footsteps
that I had
outside,
matched
an
with a girl
officer
named
shouting,
Rebecca.
and then
Her
finally,
profile looked
silence.
legit. She had
They
a photo
arrested
of
him.
herself at her job,
When they came
a
to the
short
door to
video
check
of
on
her
me,
and her
I
friends
finally
at a bar
unlocked it.
shooting darts,
Still
a picture of
shaking.
her at an outdoor concert,
The officer who
and a
talked to me
regular
had a
selfie
serious
of just
look on
her
his
face.
face.
I thought she was
The
very
officer told me
attractive,
he
so
was
I
holding a
messaged
knife.
her. Before long,
I had to
we were
grip
having
the
a
door
nice
frame to stay
conversation
upright.
about our respective jobs
He came
and
to my
hobbies.
house with a knife.
She seemed cool
I
and
didn't
normal,
know if he meant to
so I
threaten
asked
me,
her if she
hurt
wanted
me,
to
or
meet at
hurt
a local
himself.
arcade bar
But
that
none of
Friday.
the possibilities
I
made me feel
matched
any
with
better.
this woman on Bumble
They were all
last spring,
terrifying.
and to this
Because of
day,
that, I had
still
no
don't
choice but to
know
tell my
who I
parents
actually met
everything.
that night.
Every lie
Her
he told,
name on the
and
app
every
was
red flag
Rachel.
I ignored.
She looked normal in her pictures.
They scolded me,
nothing
of course, for
crazy
trusting
or
someone
overly
online
edited.
and for
Just
hiding
a
it from
cute
them.
brunette who
But
worked in
underneath the
marketing
worry
liked
and
hiking.
anger, they
We
were
talked for a
relieved that
few
I was
days, and
alive.
she seemed down
My
to
mom
earth.
hugged me like I
No
came home
weird
from war.
messages or vibes. She
Thinking
didn't
back
push
on the
for
words,
anything,
he was
and she
holding a
actually
knife,
wanted to go
still
slow.
give me the chills.
Honestly, it felt refreshing compared to the other matches. After about a week of talking, we agreed to meet up for dinner on a Wednesday night. She picked a restaurant in a quiet part of town,
never been a big
little
dating app
nicer than
guy.
the places I
Maybe
usually
a little
go,
bit in
but
college,
nothing too
but mostly
crazy.
Tinder when I was
When I
messing
got there,
around.
I texted
After
her
that,
that I
I had a
parked.
4-year
She didn't
relationship.
answer.
I didn't really
waited
know
at
how
the
to go out and
entrance,
flirt
checking
anymore.
my phone every couple
I didn't really
minutes.
have game anymore.
10 minutes went
So
by,
I was on
then
Tinder for
20.
a bit, just
I
testing the
thought
waters as a
maybe she
freshly
got stuck
single
in
guy for a
traffic.
bit and
I
going out with
messaged
my single
again,
friends a
saying I
lot.
was inside by the
But when it
hostess
came time to
stand.
start
I
seriously
started
dating
getting a little
again,
embarrassed.
the easy
It
answer
looked
was, of
like I
course,
was
a
getting stood
serious
up.
dating app.
The hostess
Hinge
asked
was
if
the
I
one
wanted
everyone
a table, and I
recommended for
told her
finding
I was
quality
waiting for
women
someone.
looking to actually
She
date.
told me no one
So I
under
got
the
on
name
there,
Rachel had
and I got a
checked
few
in.
matches in the first
Now,
few days.
30 minutes passed,
One was
and
a
I
really
was about
pretty
to
girl
leave
named
when
Jenna.
a guy came in and
She
walked
was this short
straight up to me.
Italian-looking girl
He
with
was
black
maybe
hair, tan
mid-40s,
skin,
scruffy,
and she looked like she
kind
worked
of
out.
heavy, wearing a black hoodie.
We seemed
He
to hit it
asked
off
me if I was
immediately in the
Jake.
chat.
My name wasn't on the
After like
reservation,
10
so
messages
it
from
caught
both
me off
sides,
guard.
she asked
I
for my
told him
Instagram,
yes, and he
saying
said
she
he
hates
was
opening the
Rachel's
Hinge
brother.
app and would rather
He
talk
told me
there.
Rachel wasn't feeling
So I
well,
gave
but
it to
she
her.
still wanted to meet me.
And moments
And she
later,
asked
I got a
him to
follow
pick me
request
up and
from her
bring me to
account.
their place,
Her
since it
username
was
was
really
Jenna
close and she didn't
X1
want to
with
cancel.
3 A's or something
The
like
whole
that.
thing already
She had like
sounded weird,
2,000
and I asked
followers.
why
She
she
followed
didn't take
200
me
people,
back.
and she
He
had
said
2
she
posts.
tried, but her phone died,
Both
and she
posts
didn't
were her
really want
taking a
to bail
selfie
in
in the
our
mirror,
date.
but she
His
admittedly
tone was
looked
calm
good.
and polite,
The
and he
posts
didn't
got a
seem
lot of
aggressive
likes and
or anything,
comments.
but
All
this was
thirsty-looking
just a
guys
little
by the
off.
looks of it, though.
I asked where she lived,
She had a
and he
story
said
up,
just a
and I
few
clicked
blocks
on it,
over,
and
and
it
that
was her at
driving
the
would
gym
be
taking a
easier
mirror
because the
selfie.
sidewalks were icy.
Also looked
I
good.
stood there debating
She
it.
DM'd
A
me
part
right
of me
away.
felt like a
We
jerk
took
if
the
I
conversation
refused,
from there.
like maybe she really was
We
sick and
continued talking about
embarrassed.
the same stuff
But
we
the
left
other
off
part of
at.
me felt like
The gym,
nothing about
traveling,
this was normal.
and we found that we
I
related
told him
pretty
I was
well.
fine walking.
And surprisingly,
I asked for the
we agreed
address.
to meet for a
He said it would
spontaneous
be
drink at
better
a
if
bar
he
in town
showed
that
me.
night.
That's when something
She said she
in
was
my
in the same
stomach
town as
told
me,
not
which was
to go.
convenient.
I
So
told told him
we
I'd
planned
rather
for 9
reschedule,
p.m.
and I started walking toward
I
the
knew
door.
the bar we were going
He
to
stepped in
quite
front
well,
of me, not
and I kind of knew the
aggressively, but
bartenders,
just enough
so I
to
decided
block
to
my
go a
path.
little early.
He said Rachel would be
The
upset
bar was
and that
slightly
she
busy,
specifically
but there were
asked
open
him to
bar
bring
stools
me.
at the bar.
I told him I'd
So
text
I
her
sat
later.
at one, seated
He
away from
stared at me
people.
for a few seconds, then stepped
like
aside and
8:50.
said, "Have a good
The
night,"
usual
in a
bartender
tone
came
that
over
sounded
and
more
greeted
like a
me,
warning
and she
than
gave me an
anything
espresso
else.
martini.
I left the restaurant
I casually
fast
took
and got
some
into my
sips
car.
and DM'd Jenna
I
that
locked
I was
the
there,
doors
but
immediately.
that she can take her time.
As I pulled out of the parking space,
Then I went through
saw
her
him
profile a
standing
little
outside
more.
the restaurant
I went to
watching
her
me.
tagged pictures.
I drove away
There
thinking
were
that was
none.
the end of it, and
I
maybe
went through the
it was
comments
just some
again,
weird
and there
misunderstanding.
truly was not a single
Later
comment
that
from a
night,
female.
around 11
It
p.m.,
was all
my
dudes.
phone buzzed.
I hoped
It was
that
a
wasn't a red
message on
flag that
Bumble
she
from
got
Rachel's
around.
profile. It said,
Then,
"Why
around this
didn't you
time,
come?"
A man
I
sat down on
replied
the
that
bar
her
stool
brother
next to
came
me
to the
and
restaurant and
greeted
told
me,
me she
saying,
was
"How you
sick.
doing?"
She
And I
answered
nodded with a
instantly,
smile.
saying she didn't
I
have
went
a
back to
brother.
looking at my phone,
All I could think
but the
was,
man next to me
what?
continued to
I
engage in
told her
conversation.
exactly what happened, and she
He asked
stopped
if I come to this
responding.
bar
I
often because he
figured maybe
recognized
she
me.
was freaked out too.
This is when I took a
I
closer
tried
look
to
at
sleep
him.
after that, but
He was
around
maybe
1
like
a.m.,
38,
I got a
just slightly
notification that
gray,
someone was
kind of
trying to log
overweight,
into
and
my
a patchy
email,
beard that he
then my
definitely should
bank
have
app,
shaved.
and then my Instagram.
I didn't recognize
all
him at all,
within
though.
minutes of each
I
other.
told him, yeah, I come here once
changed
in a
my
while.
passwords and turned on
He then
every
reached out his
security
hand for a
feature I
handshake
could.
and introduced
I
himself
didn't
as
quite
Rob.
connect it to Rachel's
Oh, brother,
situation at
I thought to
first.
myself.
The next
I
morning,
wasn't
I
in the
checked
mood for
Bumble
this.
to see if she had
But
replied,
I shook his
but her
hand and introduced
profile was
myself
gone,
as well.
completely deleted.
Around now, the
Around
bartender
noon,
came
I got
over
a
and
text
said,
from an unknown
"Finally decided
number.
to get a drink,
It said,
I see."
"You should
This
have
guy.
come with me."
He gave
I
a
showed
weird,
the text
subtle
to my
laugh,
roommate, and
but
he
that kinda
told me
made
to
me
block
think
the
for a
number
bit.
and report it.
Was he already here? And he just came up to the bar to talk to me? I DM'd Jenna again, saying, "Help me, this weird guy I think is hitting on me," as a joke. But I realized my previous DM to her was left unseen. I asked her if she was on her way. Then I went back to looking at her profile, and I decided to check her following list. And I realized she didn't follow a single female, only dudes. What kind of girl doesn't follow any of her girlfriends? This was weird. Was I catfished? The annoying guy to my right kept trying to talk to me. I had to tell him 1 second, please, as I tried calling Jenna through Instagram. She didn't pick up. It was past 9 o'clock, and it seemed like she was ghosting me, and I also just felt like this profile was fake now. I went to Hinge to find that her profile was gone, like I expected. Yup, I got catfished. I asked the bartender for the check, and then the Rob guy said, "Leaving already? Where are you from?" I said, "Yeah, I gotta get going." I didn't care to explain the situation to this guy. To be honest, I was kind of annoyed at how outwardly he went out of his way to talk to me. As I got the check, this guy would still keep trying to talk to me, even telling me I should stick around and that the hot chicks come around this time. I thought he was weird, and I was kind of just being short with him at this point. I may sound like a douche, but if you met the guy and experienced the way he approached, you'd have been annoyed too. As I said bye to the bartender and turned to leave, I felt a tight grip on my left wrist suddenly. I turned to see the man had his hand wrapped around my wrist. I said, "What the fuck are you doing?" loud enough for other people to notice and turn their heads. He started whispering to me and making a weird face. He said, "I'm Jenna. I'm sorry. Please don't go." I felt disgusting, like I needed to take a shower. I felt like throwing up. I felt violated. I broke free of his grip and hurried out of the bar to my car. It was a quiet drive home. I didn't play music. I didn't call anyone because I was still taking it in, and it felt embarrassing. When I got home, I collapsed into bed and stared at the ceiling for a bit, just absorbing what happened. I went to Instagram to go block the Jenna account, but it appeared he already blocked me, or he disabled the Instagram account entirely. This quickly became an experience I just wanted to put behind me. I turned on the TV and just tried to move on. I'd tell people tomorrow. And after I turned off the light is the part that made me hate having a bedroom on the first floor. There was an aggressively loud bang on my window. The blinds were closed and I couldn't see to the other side. Instead of yelling "Who's there?" I decided to stay quiet. I watched the blinds in horror, and then there was a voice on the other side, a man's voice saying my name, Scott, over and over again. I refused to acknowledge it, but he knew I was in there. He could see the light of the TV. He might have followed me without me realizing. He just kept saying Scott. He had to have said it like 10 times before it stopped. I stayed in my bedroom the rest of the night, and the next morning, I lifted the blind to see this. A note on the other side of the glass, saying, "I'll be watching you." I didn't leave my apartment the rest of the weekend. I moved a few days later.